go, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube world. Nicole Scott here with the Gorgeous Gray Movement. I have a new, I'm going to say GGM, Gorgeous Gray Movement friend, Kristen. Hello and welcome to our interview today.
Hello.
She's from Houston, so an American friend. I'm in Canada, she's in the US. I just love that we get to tune into women from all over the world. Now, I want you guys to follow her. She's pretty funny and silly. I love your reels. If you like reels in the entertainment, I think you got to follow Kristen. So just a couple things. So for the guys that are like, ooh, no, she's married. So just want to put that out there. She's married. So stop with your comments and creepy stuff, guys.
Stay
Okay.
out of the DMs, fellas.
Right.
Stay out of the DMs.
Right. This is for women. We're actually inspiring women, right? Go to a different channel if you want to go. This is not the channel. We're about women, inspiring women. So this is her Instagram handle, sweet simple something. I love it. So sweet, and then it's a dot, simple dot something, and we'll put that information down below as well to follow her. So Kristen, I'm so excited for you. I want to hear more of your story, and so does our audience. So I'll start with the first question that always women have is, why the heck did you start to go gray when you're too young? That's crazy stuff. So let's dive in. How were you even in that realm of diving into this story?
You know, I started going gray in high school, like a lot of women, and was dyeing my hair more for fun. You know, it was just a sporadic gray hair here, gray hair there. And then once I got into my mid to late 20s, it became a chore. And when I got into my 30s, it became an unavoidable chore that I felt as though if I waited just 1 week too long, I looked haggard, you know, just very disheveled, unkempt, if you will. Um, and at that time, when I turned 30, I had my first son. By the time I was 33, I was a mom of two, and I was spending 3 hours every, you know, 3 to 5 weeks, depending upon how lazy or tired I was, going to the salon and getting my hair dyed brown. Not fancy highlights, not the ombre, grombre, whatever they call it, just brown hair. And you know, I told my husband, I'm just so tired of dyeing my hair. And they had to dye it with such a strong blend of color to cover my gray that it would dye my skin for 3 days. You know, I walk out and I'm like scrubbing it with one of those little cloths. And it just didn't feel worth it. I didn't feel pretty when I left the salon. It wasn't a treat, but I was using my treat time to do it. So I talked to my husband, and, you know, he was mildly supportive, not unsupportive, I should say. I started researching and looking around and saw, you know, probably a lot of women that are watching us right now and thought, well, good golly, like this is incredible. You know, it's so chic and you know, people, like every single face was just glowing, framed by this beautiful silver color. And I don't know. I just told my husband, like, this is it. So yeah, I took the leap, and, you know, I did look back a couple times, you know, there are some times where it gets pretty hard, but I definitely am glad that I stuck it out at this point.
Amazing. So you started your journey, it says on your Insta, January 22nd, 2020.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And so that is how many months now, if you do the math? So that is, are we 2 years?
We'll be 20. Yeah, we'll be 2 years in just a couple days, actually. I guess by the time this airs, I will have already had my 2-year silverversary.
That's right, 2 years. And are you fully transitioned now? Is that, or you're just
Not,
at the end?
you know, so like I said, I thought I was going to look unkempt, and I made the decision. I decided to stop coloring my hair in November of 2019. And by the time I got to January, the skunk stripe was so strong, and I booked an appointment to get my hair highlighted. Terrible mistake. My hair, like I said, they were using such a strong concoction that it did not want to lighten. And instead, it just turned orange. And then she put a demi permanent on my roots at that time. And that's kind of what you still see is really just highlights and demi permanent. I'm fully transitioned kind of in the back, and it's really still pretty dark and just tinsely, like silver sparkles.
Yeah.
But there's some kind of the color of cheese. I don't know, a little bit orange there at the tips.
Oh my
So
gosh, I'm dying laughing because first off, I think ladies, you're hearing her story, which is, I think she said she's regretting that she went to do that transition. So your one thing would be like, if women are like going through that, like, oh, the skunk thing, probably recommend don't do it. Don't do the highlights. Don't do the bleaching. What do you think?
I would say it depends.
Mhm.
My hairdresser told me it wasn't going to be a good idea. And I was like, well, I've seen it on the internet. I should do
Okay.
it. It's going to be
Okay.
great. Don't you tell me you can't do it. What you not? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, yeah,
I wasn't confrontational,
yeah.
but she said, it might take a couple of sessions. Your hair is fine. It may, get it may be a little more porous, a little more fragile if we do it this way. But I was just convinced. I have a corporate job, a pretty high optics type of position. And I felt as though if I had some sort of blend that it would be more acceptable. Um, and it did. It helped to hide the demarcation line. So it really just depends upon, it's a personal preference, but I would say talk to, if you think that that is going to make it easier for you, which I was convinced that it was. And in some ways, I think it probably did, because then I was just like, look at these ridiculous highlights, and instead of look at my roots, Um, but I think if that's something that is interesting, talk to a professional and get their opinion, and then follow it. Don't fight them on it. They're a professional for a reason.
Yeah.
Uh, but some parts of me, I kind of wish I would have just gone cold turkey. But cold turkey being, not dyeing my hair, not trying to cut it. And I actually had longer hair at the start and ended up cutting a lot of it off because it was fried from trying to transition it chemically.
Right. Okay. And so I mean, I love this conversation because that's usually what I get asked the most, which is like the transition. So thank you for sharing that. And I love how you say like it's not a one size fits all. You got to do what's right for you. Ask your hairdresser and get that professional opinion. So I love that. Really, really important. Okay, so let's talk about once you started to go through this process, you had some moments where it was tough and challenging. You were thinking, what kept you going in the hard?
Well, I had the benefit of lockdown. Um, so, the only people that really saw me were my friends on different social media apps like Marco Polo and FaceTime, that sort of thing. And then my husband, who, wasn't gonna say anything. um, but I think once I started really following the Silver Sisters community on Instagram and really started seeing other people in the same stages as me and not looking at them in that judgmental lens that we often look at ourselves with, but looking at them and saying like, wow, hers looks great. Why doesn't mine look great? And then I started taking pictures of myself, and eventually I started posting them to my own Instagram account. And I started thinking, oh, hey, it doesn't look so bad on me either. But I think at first you're used to seeing your own face in a certain way. And so when you're looking out on someone else, unless you already have, some insecurities. This is my personal belief. If you're insecure about something, you have an inclination to judge someone in a negative way who doesn't have the same insecurity that you do. But I really wanted to love my hair. And so looking at other women, and really seeing people who were embracing, there are some sisters who do these they were doing challenges and take pictures of yourself with all of these different colors, and you could see how beautiful natural hair was on all of these women. And that's when I started to stop judging myself and looking at it as a, ooh, you haven't been keeping up, and more as a, wow, you're really starting to get some growth. Changing my own mindset is where it was a lot of mental work, a lot of mental work.
How has it impacted you in other areas of your life?
Tremendously. I don't know if the line of, I don't know where it's my own journey in silver hair versus connecting with so many women around the world, with this common thread. I don't know which has really caused more influence, because I think as a species, we have a tendency to huddle in our own groups, and we have our own collective thought process. And by meeting so many people via Instagram, it's really opened up my worldview. So not only am I seeing and really connecting with people and sharing experiences with them across the world, but then I'm also growing on the inside and seeing something different in myself. So I think collectively, those two things together have been life changing. And I know it's part of a process of, as you get older, once you have children and you kind of grow into your own, I believe every woman starts to go through some of their own internal growth, when they stop focusing on what other people think of them and start focusing on what they think of themselves and what they want in their lives. But I think that this probably accelerated that process, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So now that you are just about 2 years in, how is your husband and your boys reacting to this beautiful journey that you're on?
So my husband, around 6 months, well, I'll say this. So my hair, you can kind of see, I guess now it doesn't really matter anymore. I'm kind of just silver everywhere right here in the front. But when I was dyeing my hair, I always parted on this side to keep this hidden. And so as I was growing out my hair, I was parted on the other side, trying to hide, this big skunk stripe that I was growing out. And around 6 months, maybe a little before that, was when I started to really like what I was seeing. And I flipped my part. And that was when my husband said, oh, okay, I really like what's happening here. And I flipped it to how I'm wearing it right now. And I go back and forth all the time, but I'm about to do it right now, actually. Um, but once I did that, I think everyone that I know started to really, like, think that there was something to it. At first it was like, oh, she's gonna grow out her gray. And then my mom started saying, oh, okay, this looks great. And now she has stopped dyeing her hair. Some of my close friends, same thing. Um, they have, I have several friends who have stopped dyeing their hair. And now, they're just beautiful little tinsel everywhere. Um, my kids are so cute. They draw pictures of me and they draw my hair white and brown, which I think is wonderful also, because they are 8 and 5, and this is normal. Like this wild, crazy, unkempt kind of coif that I have going on, that's going to be normal for them. You know, they're not going to expect their future wives to cover up who they are to try to fit in to be something else. Um, which I think is part of the bigger kind of pull for me to really support um, women just embracing what they think they want. You know, if you're curious about it, or if you're tired of dyeing your hair, it's like, then just don't, you know. And the beautiful thing about it is, if you don't, and then you realize that you don't really like it, or you did feel more beautiful when you dyed your hair, you can dye it back. You know, you can do what makes you feel beautiful, and it doesn't have to be like linear. You know, it's not just you get on that bus and you got to ride it all the way into the sunset. You can get off and try things out and see if it works for you, and get back on the same bus if you want. I don't think
I
you would.
I love that. I love that it's just not that straight path, right? Sometimes we think it should look like this, but it goes over here. And I love your kind of final message to women, which is just try it on and you can change, you can maneuver, just do you. And it's an individual choice. So, Kristen, I just want to thank you so much for being such an amazing role model for the world. I love your message about your boys, that your boys, when they grow up and meet a woman, that they will just allow that woman to be authentically themselves without the, you have to look like this, or you have, what society says that we should. So I love that you are being a role model to the boys, to the men. We need this whole new generation to just embrace the authenticity that women are wanting and craving so much to show up, I think, more than ever in this world. And you're part of that movement. And I just want to thank you for being brave enough to get on social media, Instagram, and be vulnerable and funny and show your life and your crazy hair, but crazy in a good way. And I love that all of the women that I've been interviewing, all our hair looks so different. We're so
Mhm.
unique, right? Like your hair, then there's my hair, and all the other women, it's like the different colors and the different waves, and it's just so beautiful. And I think that's special. It's unique. We all aren't cookie cutter colors, right?
Right. Yeah, we're all not, you know, die number XYZ with this face on the box, or whatever the case might be, you know. Yes, absolutely. And that's my own pattern. My own head is different from day to day or side to side. And that's, I think, the coolest part. It's so unique just within ourselves, you know. You can style it different and it's like, ooh, I never noticed this before. It's neat.
So great. Well,
Individuality, who knew?
so good. Well, thank you for tuning in this amazing interview. You guys make sure to follow her on Instagram. Get that inspiration. If you love this interview, share it with other women that need to hear this message. Again, thank you for tuning in to the YouTube channel, Gorgeous Gray Movement, where we interview women from all over the world. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you.